I just worked with Alec Baldwin on Will and Grace. You're doing on Saturday Night Live and what they're doing and what Colbert is doing and what that kid, the English kid on HBO. If you did that in Turkey, Egypt, China, Russia, and many other places, you'd be in jail or dead. So they're doing it beautifully. They don't need Robert Klein, some voice from the past.
Talk Radio, you're in to all things music.
Welcome to Making It with Terry Woolman, the show that explores the secrets, successes, and strategies for making it in the music biz. And now, here's your host, Terry Woolman.
Welcome to the show, and thanks for tuning in. I want to let you know how much I appreciate you joining us today on our show. If you missed last week's interview with legendary bassist Will Lee, you can hear it and all of our episodes at entertalkradio.com/makingit or download our app and take us with you. So often I get asked questions about the creative process, so I created this show to focus on what it takes to have a lasting career in the ever-changing landscape of the music and comedy business. You're really in for a treat, as I've invited my friends, some of the best and brightest in music, to share their stories on how they have influenced the music that has shaped our lives. I guarantee you're going to love it. So let's get started. My guest today is American stand-up comedian, singer, and actor Robert Klein. For more than 40 years, Robert Klein has entertained audiences, and he continues to have an acclaimed career in comedy, on Broadway, on television, and in film. He was a member of the famed Second City theatrical troupe in Chicago, has been nominated twice for a Grammy, received a Tony Award nomination for Best Actor, and won a Los Angeles Drama Critics Circle Award for his performance in the hit Neil Simon musical, They're Playing Our Song. In 1975, Klein was the first comedian to appear in a live concert on HBO. You may also recognize him from his more than 100 appearances on The Tonight Show and Late Show with David Letterman. Currently, he can be seen on The Tonight Show with Jimmy Fallon, where he is a show favorite. Born in the Bronx, Robert, a lifetime New Yorker, makes his home in Westchester and New York City. Please welcome my guest today, Robert Klein. Hi, Robert.
Where's the applause, Terry? I'm used to applause. No applause?
Oh, that's right.
What the hell?
Well, what the hell? You're used.
Yeah, my friend. Last week, my friend Will Lee.
Yeah, and as a matter of fact, our friend Will, was in town from New York, and we videotaped we did a live video stream as well. It was really fun talking to him. He's such a remarkable guy. We love him. Yeah.
Actually, he has a place not too far, I think, and I'm here, but I know him from the Letterman show all those times. And by the way, I got to say, 50 years, because I count my show business start in March of 65, when the great Fred Willard and I reported for work at Second City in Chicago. So that's 52 years. How do you like that?
So I love that. And, I've been following you through a lot of that. I'm not too much younger than you. And it was really, it's been really fun to get to know you personally on a personal level and to get to work with you. And after following your career all of these years, let me start by asking you a question. On your Wikipedia page, it says your genre is observational comedy. Also improvisational comedy, of course, political satire and musical comedy. How would you define observational comedy?
I guess seeing what's around you and seeing it through the screwy lens of the comic mind. But I don't know who invented that. I've often talked about myself, but that could also be observational. When I started out, I talked about my parents and my childhood and my years substitute teaching and so forth. Each part of my life, when I got married, when we had a child, and I, wrote about that. So it's hard to say what observational comedy means in every sense, but to me it means observing and redistributing the information in a funny way. How's that for a technological answer?
No, that is actually pretty clear. Hey, so let's talk a little bit about. Go ahead.
Two Emmy nominations, which I share with Bob Stein, my longtime producer, accompanist, conductor, who you actually met at our session at that club in New York.
I did. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, he's a wonderful. He doesn't write the comedy. I write all the comedy, but he's been a wonderful. I've been working with him for an amazing 34 years. Go ahead. Ask me
where did you?
Question. No comment.
Okay. Well, actually, we're talking about Bob. Where did you meet your musical director, Bob Stein?
I met him through Stan Schwartz, who was I have had 4 accompanists. It used to be just an accompanist. There was Phil Goldston, who went on to a musical career. He was one of the co-writers of the big hit song Vanessa Williams had. Something.
Save the Best for Last? Oh.
Which one?
She said, I was thinking Save the Best for Last.
That's it, yeah. Phil Goldston is one of the composers of that. He was a nice kid. He was, a wonderful guy and produced my first record and was my accompanist. Then Ray Johnson, a wonderful African-American pianist at the Improv who played behind Bette Midler for 3 years and helped to develop what she became. And, for the lousy salary he got at the Improv, he traveled with me. And then there was Stan Schwartz. Stan Schwartz had been the musical director of Melissa Manchester and a longtime friend who opened many of my shows in 1973 when my first album, Child of the 50s, came out. She was incredible. And all those songs she wrote about her grandmother and everything, until Clive Davis grabbed her aside and said, listen, those are beautiful songs, but I want you to do something commercial. So here, Midnight Blue, he did that with Manilow, too, by the way. He said, your songs are great. Here's Mandy. Mandy, he didn't write Mandy.
Right.
Anyway, Stan was her musical director, and he and his wife decided, I think his wife forced it on him. He loved her. He was her musical director. Didn't want him to be on the road, and we have children, and blah, blah, blah. He recommended Bob. Bob was from Eastman School of Music, the Buffalo Mafia, the Scientologist trumpet player, among others, from there.
But one of the top classical schools in the world, conservatories.
Great
school.
jazz musicians and all that. And he was a jazz player from Connecticut, and he came to New York. He worked with singers and all that. But he became so much more to me. He produced the last 4 HBO specials. I did 9 of them, including the first. Yeah.
Including the very first one, yes.
Yeah, and we wrote these songs together, and he has, we do symphony work. I don't know how many comedians do that. That's a proud thing for me. And the television went on inordinately.
It's okay.
He has conducted, the Philadelphia Pops and stuff like that. I mean,
oh, how fantastic!
Actually, the Pops, he conducted a bunch of symphonies. The Pops was the old guy, the great guy too.
Arthur Fiedler. Was it Arthur Fiedler?
I don't go back. That's Boston.
Oh, right.
I'll think in a moment, but. Yeah. Anyway, I am musically illiterate, as you know. I can't really I took saxophone lessons, and I learned, vestigially, in a cursory sort of way how to read music, but I really can't read music. And so he's been my.
However, Robert, you are very musical.
Yeah,
there's no question.
I wish I could pick up a script and read, but anyway, no excuses. Sure. I have a good ear. I like music, and
you have a great ear.
Yes. That's your thing, man. Your resume is loaded with some really wonderful stuff. Really is. You never worked with Bach, though. I don't know why. Oh, he died.
I couldn't get the audition.
He died in 1750. I'm sorry.
Yeah, my talent level wasn't quite ready at that point. Hey, can we talk about your mom and dad a little bit?
Let me explain to your listeners.
Okay.
That we did the music for a documentary. You produced the music for it about the Bronx.
About the Bronx,
and,
yeah.
I saw you on location in the Bronx with me lip syncing, which was kind of surreal. Something, I guess, it was 5 blocks from where I was brought up.
I know. I was thinking about that the whole day. We're in the neighborhood you grew up in, and you're basically starring in the opening of this wonderful movie about the city that you grew up in. It was pretty fantastic, but it must have been surreal for you.
It was fun, actually, much fun.
It was a
and
great
then,
day.
Course,
yeah,
it was the session in which it was added at the last minute, which will be as I presume, I hope it's in. Did it make the cut at the end of the movie?
Yeah, as far as I know, the movie is ending with a live performance that we all did together. Yes.
You got, and you and the contractor, whatever, got great New York people.
The best of the best, yes.
And it was a tremendous kick for me to participate. That was really fun. It really was.
I'm glad you said that. We all had a great time. We all had a wonderful time doing that. I personally, I got such a kick out of performing with you after getting to know you. I mean, that our first experience was being in a recording studio, which has a little more pressure. We're on a deadline to get things done. And
the third element, we did that first before.
Right, we made the record first. Yes.
Yes, and then of course I asked Bob. I said, "Look up Terry. Who you know Terry Woolman? Oh, of course I know him. Blah blah blah." And I don't know. Actually, I think he had enough information about all your stuff, and maybe I did Google you because he said you were so important and significant, nice. And you certainly were a nice man. And
thank you.
You know what you were doing, and I love that you were in the Carl Reiner movie, the other one, the previous one.
If you're not in the obit, Eat Breakfast. Yes.
Eat Breakfast.
Yes.
That you sat in on the session. You played guitar in that session, right?
Oh, I did. Yeah, I played with Dick Van Dyke and also with Alan Bergman and Dave Grusin, and then I produced the Tony Bennett.
Many of your listeners that don't know what you look like, you have long hair like the old school.
Yeah,
it's
I'm going back to
the. It's between Isaac Newton and James Madison. It's a good length for another century. And it gives a mystical approach. But there you are. You're a Californian, aren't you, Terry?
Well, I was born and raised in Miami, and my dad grew up in Brooklyn, so I felt like kind of a sort of a family connection with you being in your neighborhood. But I've lived in Los Angeles since 1981.
Oh, yeah, because there you are in the Bronx, these courtyards. It was just wonderful shooting, and it was inches from my junior high school. And the Marshall Parkway fence, which is no longer there, but the park is, and the parkway is, but where cars go. But Ralph Lauren dwelled there, and his name was Ralph Lipschitz. When I was there, Calvin Klein lived 3 blocks from where you were shooting. Him, I didn't know. He was 2 years younger. I knew Ralph. Penny Marshall, her brother Gary Marshall, older brother.
Mm-hmm.
It was an interesting neighborhood. And we sang doo-wop on the fence there. Woo!
Well, Robert, you were also on the Ted Mack original amateur hour when you were about 6 years old, I think, singing Sunday Kind of Love, and you won? Is that true?
They didn't win. It was rigged.
Oh.
Rigged. President Trump went in there in 1954. Yes, it was. We were 15. We had a group called the Teen Tones, and it was a tremendous thrill for us. We sang doo-wop, rock and roll. A couple of us were really good, and a couple of us weren't. It's in the Library of Congress. It's in one of my specials, and also in the documentary that the Weinstein Company. Look, I did two pictures. I did 2 pictures with Harvey. He never laid a hand on me. But
yeah, I was just going to ask you. So no personal stories.
He's not even Jewish. He's Lutheran. We don't know. Now he's Lutheran. Berkowitz, the son of Sam Keller, Episcopalian.
Yeah.
Madoff. You thought he was Jewish, right? No.
Yeah.
Baptist. Sully Sullenberger landed that plane in the Hudson. Jewish.
Yes.
I know the
Jewish.
family. In Boston, they're herring merchants. Shmuel and Itzhak Sullenberger. We don't want dishonorable people as Jews.
That's right.
No, it's a Weinberger documentary because he paid for it and he loved it.
Is that coming out this year, or did it already come out?
Yeah, it's on Starz Network at the moment. They have another 6 months on the window, but it's also in there. The picture of us on the Teen Tones. We were 15 years old. We sang Sunday Kind of Love, which was a standard. I want a Sunday kind of love, a love to last till Saturday night. But the harp tones made it into I'm through with my old love. I loved her through and through. They did an intro there. I want a Sunday kind of love. And then this kind of gospel thing. We did it up tempo. I want a Sunday kind of love. He lost to a one-armed piano player from Missouri.
For real?
For real. His left hand was a stump, and he was a busy son of a bitch. He played the Mozart Sonata for 4 hands, which was ambitious. Oh,
yeah, absolutely. Hey, we're heading into our first break, Robert. When we come back, I want to talk about your mom and dad, Frida and Benjamin, and also that you were raised in what you say is a prototypical 1950s Bronx Jewish environment. I'm curious what that means to you. So, by the way, tell everybody your website where they can find out about you and the new biography special on you and your upcoming albums and everything.
As soon as I find out what a website is, I'm very old and I don't know about websites. And I hope.
Well, I will tell everybody. I'm actually looking at it. It is actually robertklein.com. And I encourage everybody to go to it. Yeah, but we'll post a link also so everybody can find it.
All right.
I am talking with actor, singer, comedian, and friend Robert Klein. Writer, absolutely. Yeah. He's got a book out. We're going to talk about that, and we will be right back, so stick around.
I know I'm able to write my name. I feel anyone who can write their name should be called a writer.
Serious about your music? Are you ready to run with the big dogs? The experts at Pitbull Audio have the gear to get you into the game. From leading manufacturers like Mesa Boogie, Fender, Pioneer, and American Audio. To sound your best, you need the best. Pitbull Audio can deliver in rehearsal, on stage, and into the big time. Dropping beats, shredding guitar, or making the crowd roar. Whatever you dream, Pitbull Audio can help make it happen. We are Pitbull Audio. We want you to play it loud. PitbullAudio.com.
You know what's all around you every waking moment of your life? Marketing. You're choking on it. I'm Scott Robertson, and when it comes to strategic PR, branding, and marketing, I've seen it all. And actually, I'm still seeing it because bad marketing never sleeps. Join me each week on May the Best Brand Win, right here on Intertalk Radio, and learn how to make the marketing for your brand unforgettable.
Hi, I'm Tim Dolbear, the host of Sound Experience on Intertalk Radio. Each week, I talk with top professional audio engineers, producers, musicians, and the manufacturers that make the tools that we use in the studio each and every day. From capturing the perfect take to mastering your final release, and the tools and how the pros use them, we are going to dive deep into their process and learn from their experience. I look forward to you joining us each week on Sound Experience with me, your host, Tim Dolbear.
This is Jackie Bertoni from Jackie's Groove. Come join me weekly on my journey through the music business as I take you behind the velvet rope, interviewing industry notables such as Al Di Meola, Michael McDonald, and Al Jarreau, to name but a few. Listen to their stories on being in the studios recording #1 hits and onto the stages throughout the globe. Allow me to be the music historian. You can hear me live every Monday at 2 p.m. and every Wednesday at 12 noon Pacific Standard Time or 24/7 on jackiesgroove.com. Ready to get your groove on?
Hey, everybody, this is Will Lee, and you're listening to Making It with Terry Wood.
Welcome to Making It with Terry Woolman, the show that explores the secrets, successes, and strategies for making it in the music biz. And now, here's your host, Terry Woolman.
Welcome back. I'm here with Robert Klein, writer, actor, comic, musician. Anything else? I mean, you were so many things. In all seriousness, you've been writing your comedy, but you did write a book, and I was actually curious how you enjoyed the process of becoming an author. You know, writing a longer form. Was that interesting for you? Was it natural?
Yeah, well, I wrote a screenplay for Columbia Pictures 30 years ago. They paid me handsomely, and it went into what they call turnaround, so that after 6 years it became mine. They decided not to produce it.
They put a hold on it?
I've written a lot of articles, and of course I've written every word of my own material.
Right.
The only time I collaborated was on Saturday Night Live, on my couple of hosts, on... the two specials I did for NBC in the early 80s, a wonderful pilot I did in 75 with Peter Boyle and Madeline Kahn. Otherwise, I'm a loner. I write myself. But writing a book is different. It's the lengthening of writing an article for the New York Times, as I've done a few times, or book reviews.
Right.
It was sometimes... I couldn't think of anything, and days went by, and there were times when my fingers burned I couldn't get the words fast enough, and then I'd listen to it and watch it the next day, and it was good. It was pretty good. Yes, it needed rewriting. See, as an improviser from my Second City pedigree, that's how I write my stand-up material. I don't sit down and write it like George Carlin did. George Carlin was basically a playwright when he wrote his material. He wrote it down, tried it out, and knew what was good. The stage manager of the HBO people knew exactly what was his first word and his last word, and it worked wonderfully, obviously.
But your creative process is more stream of consciousness. Don't you discover your material on stage oftentimes?
Right. I said, Jesus, I said that and capture that. And, and things jump into my head, so take advantage of them. I don't know what the creative process is made of. I'm fearsome about exploring it too heavily.
Right, because it works so well, you don't.
Prozac, but Prozac never affected my creativity. It made me a little bit happier. The process of writing a book is different in that you're sitting there, and I am talking and all that, but writing and talking are different. And rewriting is terribly important, seeing what you'd like to correct. And I handed in a book called Robert Klein, called The Amorous Busboy of Decatur Avenue. There was a guy from Random House, Simon & Schuster. Simon & Schuster, Random House, Utah, Idaho. There was a guy who was always interested in me doing a book, and not just a book that, not to be patronizing, but that a lot of comedians have done, really stand up attached to the page. That would be literate in some sense, even if I used ideas for my stand up. And it took me much too long, about 4 years. And it was, because I didn't need the money really, although the money was pretty good, until finally he said, Mark Gompertz, who was my editor at Simon & Schuster, and finally he said, they're asking about that Klein that Klein book.
Right.
And all that. And I was shamed into finally finalizing and nailing it.
Into finishing.
And I really loved it. And it got a wonderful review in the New York Times and all over the place. And I've gotten no less than 3 letters from professors in various universities saying they use it in their literature course. They, contemporary
that's
American
fantastic,
literature.
Robert.
And that it's something that appeals to them. And I got some very nice reviews from college newspapers. And for a first book from, celebrity, quote unquote, not in my hottest years of the 80s and 90s, I guess. It sold, about 25,000 copies off the bat pretty well. And, there's a little leakage on Amazon all the time where it's selling for about 39 cents. But it was a wonderful experience, and I'm as proud of that as anything in my career. It ends when I'm 25 years old.
It's basically a look back at growing up in the 50s, right? Is it a look at your childhood?
Yes, and into my early aspiration from the Yale Drama School into the Second City experience. But it ends with me not having the greatest perspectives for having a good career. It ends in the Beverly Hills Hotel. My first trip to Los Angeles 51 years ago, come October, to do the Tom Jones, to do the Dean Martin show.
Oh, fantastic.
And it didn't turn out so well. And it was and then I played the Troubadour, which is still there.
Right.
And the whole thing was, actually, when I think about the wonderful years, my first trip to L.A. West at 25 years old was a bit of a disaster, but I think I made up for it.
Oh, you've more than made up for it. One of the things that I really enjoy about you on a personal level is when you tell right now, or when we spend a little bit of time together in New York, when you tell stories about your life, not just your career, but your life, you have very vivid and clear memories, not just of the experiences, but how old you were, what year it was. And is your memory always just been, has it been that clear? Do you have to think about for a second that it was 1961 that you did this show or that show, or is it just part of the story for you? You remember it so well.
Why am I on the phone?
Exactly.
Who am I talking?
Who are you?
You know what? My memory of all old things, not by year. I can't tell you the difference between the 80s and 90s.
Okay.
But I can't tell you why I went into the kitchen. Did I come to get a glass of water? Did I come to get, a pickle? I just did a turn in L.A. doing 2 episodes of Will and Grace. At Universal, playing Deborah Messing's father, which I played. In a NBC series that was canceled last year called Mysteries of Laura, which we shot in New York. I memorized my lines as quick as I ever have, like a zip.
Is that something you learned at Yale when you were in drama school?
No.
You just have always known how to do that?
Yale was valuable. I spent 1 year out of a 3-year Master of Fine Arts course. In fact, Jimmy Burrows, the great Hollywood TV director who co-created Cheers, did every Taxi, did every Will and Grace as a director, directed this. He was my best friend at Yale. It was wonderful being out there with him too, because I don't see him often enough. Everything came easily, and I'm an old actor, so I play fathers. I used to play lovers. Now I play fathers. But when I play Sandra Bullock's father, it's hard for me not to look at her and say, "Oh, yeah.
Right.
Hello, darling. How are you?" I played Jennifer Tilly's father, and she had to jump on top of me in a wedding scene. She thought her dad, I would play her father, and she thought that I had a heart attack in the script, and she talked like that. She was so hot, man.
Yes.
And she goes, Daddy, Daddy. She's punching my chest. Daddy, 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 Daddy. And it felt so good, Terry. Her body on mine, punching my chest.
Right, because even though because you're still a lover.
Somebody said, cut. And I said, no, don't cut. I need a few more daddies. Give me 10, give me 12. Yeah, being an old actor is an interesting, first of all, I'm still working and I'm not dead. And also as a comedian, I'm not dead. Pryor and George Carlin ended much tragically too short. And
I've heard you make reference to that even as an aside with some of your conversations and TV interviews where you just mention that, well, I'm not dead or I'm still here. And do you, but have you always taken care of yourself, or were there times in your life where you actually did anything that was abusive to yourself or not healthy?
Oh yeah. What do you mean? I didn't do coke in the 80s, and
okay.
I still love pot. I think pot is terrific, but I don't think it's that damaging. You have to be careful of alcohol.
I agree.
It's very nice, legal, all the drugs that I ever experienced in my life, and of course not for many years. I don't think it was anything as profound as alcohol, to be honest with you.
Mm-hmm.
I took a pill or two to study in college, but I can't imagine that crystal meth and, alcohol is about as heavy a thing as people have to cope with. It ruins lives. It kills people.
Absolutely.
I've been working out with a trainer for probably whistling in the graveyard for over 25 years.
Mm-hmm.
I had a trainer who became an Olympic bobsled coach and had a protege who's been my trainer ever since for 23 years. And 3 times a week he comes to the house, with exceptions. He does a little traveling and this and that. But 3 times a week I go to my little gym in my house.
Mm-hmm.
And, if I have to feel nauseous, I have to feel nauseous. I lift weights and I run on a treadmill or walk fast, whichever I can do. I just turned 76. I have a gig.
By the way,
Maryland.
happy belated birthday. That was just at the beginning of February.
Yes, I didn't do much. My son
Alex
cooked me a meal. At this point, celebrating birthday is ridiculous. But I've been working a lot. I enjoy working. I enjoy doing nothing, to be honest with you. I think I've earned it. I've been working
I would agree.
in this profession for almost 52 years, and if I want to sit home and get high and watch the ball game, that's my privilege. I like to watch a lot of documentaries about Hitler and World War II because I know we won. I don't want things that aren't sure things. I'm tired of watching Trump's face on television, although
I'm so glad you said that. Well, let me ask you something. This was on my mind before we
I can sense that you're a Trump person, and I resent it. No, I'm just
For the record, I am not, but I'm always open to people's opinions. I think it's really important to talk about both sides. But here's my thought with you. Back in Robert, back in the 1970s,
Judy Collins, unbelievable. Went to see her down at the. At the Public Theater, Judy Collins. All right, I'm sorry.
Recently, so back in the 70s, you had a really popular record and comedy routine about Watergate scandal, and I thought it was fantastic. I remember it, and I'm wondering, have you given any thought to recording a politically based comedy album right now, inspired by what's going on in our country and in the world? Is that something that?
Terry, not even the remotest thought.
Because you don't think there'd be value, or because you don't have an?
I made my opinion known. I am occasionally asked to be on, talk about the news a little, but I did 4 pieces for National Geographic Explorer, which were quasi-political, but were like a kind of Andy Rooney thing, which I think they overproduced with visuals. But no. First of all,
it just doesn't hold your interest.
Like that. And also, there was a lot of Trump jokes before it became serious. And now I do it subtly. I know that there are. First of all, I mean, my own opinion is he deserves none of the respect of the presidency. He's forfeited that with his disgusting and dishonorable insults. I thought the John McCain thing would end him years ago. It didn't. So here's a guy that got 4 deferments from the war, and he takes John McCain, who is not, he's a dead-eye Republican, but he's certainly a great American and an interesting dude who suffered for almost 6 years in a Vietnamese prison. And this guy says that, and he gets away with it. So,
it is disgusting. I agree with you.
My grandparents came from a shithole country called Hungary, and all. But just, his hair used to get a laugh 6-7 years ago. And
but I'm not just talking about going for the laugh. I'm talking about, what we're missing from the 60s and 70s is that artists were writing comedy and music to create change politically.
Well, let me tell you something. I just worked with Alec Baldwin and on Will and Grace. He did a very funny turn. I told him. He said, "I can't stop my leg," to me, which is my
your
shtick.
Big hit. Yeah.
And I said, you know what? If you were doing what if I were religious, I'd say God bless you, because he's not the greatest guy in the world. He has a lot of faults, shall we say.
Right. Sure.
What you're doing on Saturday Night Live and what they're doing and what Colbert is doing and what that kid, the English kid on HBO. If you did that in Turkey, Egypt, China, Russia, and many other places, you'd be in jail or dead.
Up. That's right.
So, I mean, so they're doing it beautifully. They don't need Robert Klein, some voice from the past. I think I'll probably, I'd love to do one of, I met Lawrence O'Donnell from MSNBC at one of these screenings. He said, I came to see you when I was at Harvard at Passim's, which was a coffee house in Cambridge. I had such wonderful gigs there in the 70s, So maybe you go on those places. From time to time, I go on and give my little opinion.
Good.
I'm not a tweeter.
By the way, we're heading into our next break. I need to interrupt you. But we will be right back to talk more about life, art, music, comedy, and Robert Klein. Stick around.
Composer Adam Berry, and you're listening to Making It with Terry Wolf.
Hi, this is Tim Dolbear, host of Sound Experience here on Intertalk Radio. And Source Connect by Source Element is the essential tool that we use to link between my studio in Austin, Texas, and the WS radio station in San Diego. Now, with Source Connect, not only can we communicate in real time and with HD audio, but it's synced up and is of a high enough quality that I can use it for real-time ADR work, remote recording, and overdubbing, and it even allows me to remotely control a DAW. Source Connect by Source Element. Affordable, high-quality audio and video connection over the internet for all of your production needs.
You know what's all around you every waking moment of your life? Marketing. You're choking on it. I'm Scott Robertson, and when it comes to strategic PR, branding, and marketing, I've seen it all. And actually, I'm still seeing it because bad marketing never sleeps. Join me each week on May the Best Brand Win, right here on Intertalk Radio, and learn how to make the marketing for your brand unforgettable.
Hi, I'm Tim Dolbear, the host of Sound Experience on Intertalk Radio. Each week, I talk with top professional audio engineers, producers, musicians, and the manufacturers that make the tools that we use in the studio each and every day. From capturing the perfect take to mastering your final release, and the tools and how the pros use them, we are going to dive deep into their process and learn from their experience. I look forward to you joining us each week on Sound Experience with me, your host, Tim Dolbear.
Are you serious about your music? Are you ready to run with the big dogs? The experts at Pitbull Audio have the gear to get you into the game. From leading manufacturers like Mesa Boogie, Fender, Pioneer, and American Audio. To sound your best, you need the best. Pitbull Audio can deliver in rehearsal, on stage, and into the big time. Dropping beats, shredding guitar, or making the crowd roar. Whatever you dream, Pitbull Audio can help make it happen. We are Pitbull Audio. We want you to play it loud. PitbullAudio.com.
This is Aubrey Logan, and you are listening to Making It with Terry Woolman.
Welcome to Making It with Terry Woolman, the show that explores the secrets, successes, and strategies for making it in the music biz. And now, here's your host, Terry Woolman.
Welcome back. I'm here talking with Robert Klein. Robert, are you at home are you traveling right now?
I'm in
where are you calling from?
No, I'm looking now at a dark Hudson. I'm going tomorrow to the city where I'll have lunch with Richard Zoglin, the wonderful writer who wrote a book about Bob Hope and other comedy things, a critic for Time Magazine for years. And then I'm going to play poker, where I won $11 a few weeks ago.
Are you in a poker group, like a regular group of guys that you get together with and do that?
Yes, and most of them are very rich, but the most anyone ever lost was a couple of $100.
So
gambling
totally
is
playing for fun.
It's simply not something that appeals to me.
It's never appealed to me either.
I heard you say that your show is about the music business. You know, I've been in every business in my 52 years in show business, and the music business, as I knew it in 73, 74, 75, when my first 3 albums came out, 2 were nominated for Grammys, rather.
Grammys, right.
Was pretty dirty then. A lot of cocaine as gifts to the disc jockeys.
Right, oh, absolutely.
And, that was more for singles and stuff, but Neil Bogart, do you remember Neil?
I did, but by the way, did you have singles as with a comedy record also, or were those your songs? Okay.
No, there were singles made from their playing a song, the musical that Neil Bogart made.
So yes, Neil Bogart.
Neil Bogart. I made an album. I paid for it myself. I recorded a comedy album.
Wait, that was kind of unheard of back then. That's the new paradigm. But to pay for your album yourself, you didn't get a record deal and a budget. You went and did it yourself and then sold it?
Yes. I decided to pay for it myself. It cost me $8,500, and I recorded it at the bitter end of New York and edited it at that wonderful, beautiful studio, long gone, I think, on West 8th Street in the Village, a big, music studio, editing place for the music business. And we took it to Neil Bogart, or actually my managers, and he loved it. He just said, I want to do it over. He said, I hear clinking glasses and all that, and I want to do it over. And I called it 50s Child. And he said, I like Child of the 50s. He then proceeded to create this thing, the Robert Klein Annual Reunion at Carnegie Hall, $4 ticket or something like that, in 1973. And he was a wonderful record man, Neil. He knew what he was doing. He then became Casablanca. I think you know all about it,
Absolutely,
Kiss.
Well, even the Bee Gees, everybody, yes.
Yeah, a lot of stuff. He was a great record man, and I flew on private jet. My first private jet experience. I also made love to my wife in the large lavatory of a French jet. It was a wonderful life.
Yeah, it was a great time.
I did have to kiss a lot of ass of disc jockeys, of distributors. I had to go to a place in Minnesota where the greatest record distributor was. A lot of ass kissing. And I know that certain disc jockeys or entities were dishonest. But the interesting thing is that WNEW-FM in New York, a so-called quote-unquote progressive rock station, they played my music, as did BCN in Boston, and I forgot the one in Philadelphia, Ed Shockey and some others. No one played comedy cuts. Mm-hmm. You know, we had a break. We had like an icebreaker. We had to convince them. Scott Muni was the music director at NEW-FM in New York. Jonathan Schwartz was on the roster. The Nightbird, whatever her name was, Fornatel, all these, they played what they wanted. They were not programmed. And
that was a great time in radio.
That was a great time in radio and a great time and an opportune time for us to get comedy cuts played. In fact, we did a unique thing. Buddha Records, which was Neil's, I think I was on Brut, B-R-U-T, because George Barry, who owned Fabergé and owned all the jets, put up the money to make a record label. And, we made an extra special DJ copy without curse words in it to be played. So that was a pioneering thing to get, the thing played, because that was my experience in the music business. But I thought of all the businesses that the music business, at least at that time, was not clean, because you needed airtime. And I never saw it, it had nothing to do with me particularly, except kissing ass. Charles Lacadera on BCN in Boston, I mean, they gave him cocaine and trips to Bermuda and whatever else, just to play their singles and all that. But yet, music is music. The music itself is not diminished by dishonesty in the business, but that's the way it was then. Now,
what I loved about that time in radio was you would hear "Don't Crush That Dwarf, Hand Me the Pliers," Fire Sign Theater, and then you would hear "Sex Machine" by Sly and the Family Stone, like all these obscure cuts, and then something of yours, and then a Judy Collins tune, and it was really, like you said, people, the DJs were choosing their own songs, their playlists. They weren't being controlled.
Sports who could be annoying. That certainly was the charm of his kind of show, subsequent to those old days. By the way, Mel Karmazin was the boss at NEW-FM. He's the one that started Sirius Radio.
Oh, no kidding. I didn't know that.
New York last year. And he's out now, but I mean, the thing went down to 10 cents a share, and look at it. So,
right.
I'm not.
So let me circle back, Robert.
Yeah.
Can we get back to? Just tell me a little about your mom and dad, Frida and Benjamin, and did they encourage your creativity when you were little, or were they worried and want you to go be the doctor that you were studying to be? After you graduated from DeWitt Clinton High School.
Yeah.
Were they? Did they want you to? Were they serious parents, or were they fun and playful?
Oh, very fun. My father was hysterical, and my mother was a piano savant. My mother, Marvin Hamlish, would marvel at Frida's skills. She could play anything she heard with two hands. Like the opening night of their playing our song, she went home, and my father said I heard her play a lot of the score within a couple of days. It had to be in the key of F. She took piano lessons as a child for a couple of years, but couldn't read music and was very embarrassed about it. Sort of like what I said to you at the beginning, that I'm a musical illiterate. So she was a very musical person, and she was funny and idiosyncratic. My father was hysterical. He was a textile salesman in the garment center in New York, a heavy briefcase with samples of cotton goods to sell to dressmakers and blouse makers. And he made a living enough to just get by. He struggled a lot. But my father actually, apparently I was some sort of savant that I could carry a tune in the carriage before I could speak. Like,
I'm not surprised.
My mother used to sing, na 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 na, and I would sort of mimic, so that there was a show on Sunday mornings in New York when we were kids called the Horn and Hardart Children's Hour. Horn and Hardart was the automat company, and they had a sales shop. You could take out food from there. They were actually much of it delicious, and there were child performers, and they were professional. And my father actually called the show when I was about 8 or 9, and I was crying hysterically. I was terrified. I used to sing for relatives. I had a beautiful voice, and I had, not perfect pitch like Marvin. Marvin Hamlish, you could say A flat. He could hit it, in his voice. I didn't have that, but I could hear a note and do it, And
you had a natural feel for it. Yeah.
That died. He wanted me to. He thought I was so good that the world should see it. Being a doctor was a convenient excuse for years. A few things got in my way of being a doctor, largely calculus, physics, biology, zoology, inorganic chemistry, organic chemistry, reading, spelling, you get the idea. Women and attendance, inclination, and talent. I went in for history and political science, the proper preparation for comedy. Wrote a paper on George Washington, which changed my life. And also I've been reading a lot about him lately. Seriously, we just had his birthday. You're
an avid reader, aren't you?
I am. And especially of history and nonfiction. Although I'm a tremendous fan of Edgar Doctorow, E.L. Doctorow, who sadly will not give us any more books. Philip Roth, who says he's retired. I do love great fiction, but
I do as
I love television. But my television watching, which is incessant, is never prime time. It's either the news stuff, analysis, some ball games, and a lot of documentary. I mean, to see Attenborough's nature specials on my 75-inch television.
I need to come over next time. I'm in New York.
I'll take it next time. And, I don't have to be anywhere much of the time.
Right.
Tomorrow, for example, I have a busy day in New York. But for the most part, I have a lot of leave. I mean, I work, but not as much as I did, and which I'm happy about,
Yeah, you're doing what you want to do, which you have earned. We're actually we're getting to the last few minutes of the show. And,
oh, my God.
I know. So we only have about three or 4 minutes left, and I've got two questions for you. Well, the first one is a 2-part question. Yeah. What is making it mean to you, both personally and professionally? And also, can you share 3 tips for success that have driven your career?
Well, let me the last one first. Making it was that's the first one. Making it was I don't know, a Broadway premiere in which I was the star at a huge party in Sardi's with my parents and my
So are you saying that it's really? I'm not actually talking about the events and all your accomplishments, but what it means to you to have made those incredible accomplishments in your life.
Love it.
Yeah. You've got a lot to be proud of.
My life, I'm getting older. I have to think of, like, what am I going to miss? I'll miss getting up in the morning, going out to my long driveway, getting the New York Times in the mail, reading it, moving my bowels, my coffee part of it, I don't know if I'll have breakfast or not. And is this the day the trainer is here? Oh, my God, thank you. He's not. That's what my bucket list is. Making it, I mean, my parents sat next to the President of the United States on the lawn of the White House.
Wow.
What do you have to do to make it in what you do? First of all, being a musician per se is a tough thing today. Being a musician has been, it's an undertold story. All this copying of drummers and of what people do and belittling. Every wedding now has, recordings of musicians. Being a musician is tough now. Classical, popular, any other way. And yet, music is so wonderful and godlike. Why would I say godlike? You know what I mean? It's so necessary that it's still a great pursuit. But I don't know to have a general career in what you want.
Well, what are the tips? Like, what do you think? What are the things that have helped you be successful?
You have the tenacity to go after it. You must not stop.
Okay. Yes. Great.
You must focus. You must spend your time. And when I was young, and when I got encouragement from Rodney Dangerfield, and then eventually from Jack Rollins and Charlie Jaffe, the great managers who managed Woody Allen and Joan Rivers and all the Cavett and all the great. I mean, it just, to get their confidence. So you need focus. You need it must be the most important thing to you to try to make it. Because I had no chutzpah. I couldn't knock on doors to say, here I am, I'm talented. Things had to happen. And don't let anyone kid you. No matter how talented you are, you need some good fortune. You need some coincidence. You need some bumping into someone who says something. Like my Bob Stein, 34 years, my musical director, my producer, and I met him through another friend by accident. So a lot of it is serendipitous.
Serendipity, absolutely. In our last 30 seconds, my last question is, at this point of your life, with everything that you know to be true, what would you tell your younger self?
Calm down, relax, think, breathe deeply, don't get too caught up. And that came out of me spontaneously. I don't know if it's the greatest information.
But it is, because it's honest and it's you.
To ask the question that requires a good deal of thought, but I mean, really just, and try to be optimistic. Life is long, much longer for these young people like my son, who's, 34 years old. So, it's here. I mean, what would be my bucket list? Getting up in the morning, moving my bowels, and reading the Times.
And on that note, I want to thank you.
I mean, the Mount Everest is full of the frozen corpses of dentists.
Yeah, they sure are. Robert, thank you. We're out of time. I appreciate you spending the hour with me. Thanks so much.
Thanks.
We'll see everybody next week.
Tune in again next week for another great episode of Making It with Terry Woolman.
This is Jackie Bertoni from Jackie's Groove. Come join me weekly on my journey through the music business as I take you behind the velvet rope, interviewing industry notables such as Al Di Meola, Michael McDonald, and Al Jarreau, to name but a few. Listen to their stories on being in the studios recording #1 hits and onto the stages throughout the globe. Allow me to be your music historian. You can hear me live every Monday at 2 p.m. and every Wednesday at 12 noon Pacific Standard Time, or 24/7 on jackiesgroove.com. Ready to get your groove on?
Hi, this is Tim Dolbear from Eclectica Studios. I'm a full-time mixing and recording engineer. I work with Grammy winners, labels, and indie artists, using state-of-the-art digital mixing and restoration tools and the very best in analog gear. Really, though, it's my ability to bring tracks to life and fulfill your vision for your music. This has made me sought after by producers and artists worldwide. So spend your time working on music and not chasing a mix down a rabbit hole. Go to timdolbear.com and check out our free one-song mix offer.
You know what's all around you every waking moment of your life? Marketing. You're choking on it. I'm Scott Robertson, and when it comes to strategic PR, branding, and marketing, I've seen it all. And actually, I'm still seeing it because bad marketing never sleeps. Join me each week on May the Best Brand Win, right here on Intertalk Radio, and learn how to make the marketing for your brand unforgettable.
Are you serious about your music? Are you ready to run with the big dogs? The experts at Pitbull Audio have the gear to get you into the game. From leading manufacturers like Mesa Boogie, Fender, Pioneer, and American Audio. To sound your best, you need the best. Pitbull Audio can deliver in rehearsal, on stage, and into the big time. Dropping beats, shredding guitar, or making the crowd roar. Whatever you dream, Pitbull Audio can help make it happen. We are Pitbull Audio. We want you to play it loud. PitbullAudio.com.